Another week of Oh Shit. This week is an interesting week in particular because we're just following up the latest Art Basel Art Festival in Miami. One of the coolest weeks of the year. If you've never been to it, it's definitely something you should check out. And not only has it been kind of a bastion of traditional art, modern art, contemporary art, surrealism, every type of art you can think of. In particular, the thing that's caught my eye is that the last couple of years in particular, you've really seen the rise of digital art, led by a lot of different trends that we're going to get into today. And one of the guys I happen to think has been really pushing the boundaries of commercializing and bringing this art form to the masses in the last couple of years is a chap called Marc Billings. Now, I got to know Mark, I guess it was back in about 2013 when I had my startup guide, and he was the co-founder of a really cool tech startup, like a rental boat platform called BoatSetter. I got to know him as a kind of another entrepreneur's entrepreneur, where he'd been the co-founder of a company called Utopia. He'd frankly been involved in quite a few other businesses before that. But it's the one that he did starting in 2015 that really caught my eye and something I fell in love with, called Blackdove. And Blackdove is, I think, as he describes it, an art gallery for the technology age. I think it's that and a hell of a lot more. And you're going to learn about that today in our subject about discussing basically, what the future of digital art looks like, whether it's NFTs or even at-home digital art installations. But we're going to cover all of that on today's Oh Ship, and here we go. Mark, welcome to Oh Ship. How are you?
Good to see you again, Freddie.
Yeah, it's been too damn long in person, but we can express our digital love today while talking about digital art.
I will never forget being with you, but it's good to see you digitally either way.
Thanks, man. So, again, really interesting time to chat with you, given that it was just Art Basel last week. Before we get into that, though, I'd love to just make sure our audience knows a little bit more about you and specifically around your company, Blackdove, because I'd like to just make sure people understand why your opinion really matters in this space. So, could you tell us a little bit about what it is that you do and what it is that your company does? And
Well, thanks, Freddie. I appreciate the question there. The answer is one that goes well beyond the business of delivering digital art to screens, frankly, because it's our position that art is the last frontier of human intellectual property that is not freely democratized to humanity. And so, for the first time in history, art in a digital form can be accessed by anyone. Historically, art was a physical object, one person could own it. Therefore, of course, there were the pricing considerations of high prices, but more importantly, this amazing work of art, unless perhaps in a museum, would be seen simply by one person. And if we compare that, say, to books or music, imagine if the most important books of all time were read only by one person at a time.
pretty sad. So, and when you think
Yeah.
about these kind of digital art forms that you're discussing, like what medium are you thinking? Is this projected stuff, VR art, on big screens, on mobile devices? What does this look like to you?
I mean, you would be a better man than I if you could predict where artists are going to create next. Okay. It's frankly our job just to listen to what artists are looking to do. There are somewhere to the tune of about a billion televisions out there in the world. And, you mentioned the boat business. My historic business thesis has been very simple, which is just find, parts of our life that are inefficient. In this case, we all have televisions at our home. Rather than have them just off, we thought, hey, what if we could create a channel that you could enjoy art and have it in your home? You already have a television. It's a really amazingly simple addition to anyone's home.
I'm going to pull up, basically an example of some digital art that basically is within someone's residence. I'd love for you to talk us through some of what we're seeing here.
So this is a wonderful installation we did a couple of years ago now. It's the penthouse residence of the Four Seasons here in Miami
Wow.
Beach. It's an amazing installation. It's a seven-figure display integration itself. And then you're seeing, as we're going through now, the ability to change the art that's on that screen. The ownership purchased an original one of one from an artist whose name is Rafiq Anadol, which is really the preeminent artist in the space. And we integrated this into his home so that at the touch of a button, very, very easy, they can change the decor, change the mood, and it works incredibly well.
This is amazing. I just bought some of these new LG gallery TVs. Would this work on that?
It's actually our absolutely favorite consumer television. You get the beautiful
Awesome.
black.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, no,
Awesome.
it's. We actually met with LG last Monday. They're actually incorporating Blackdove natively into that screen, hopefully by the end of next year.
Wow. Okay. That's even better. Hopefully, I'll get that in a software update. If not, damn you, LG.
Upgrade city, upgrade city.
Yeah, exactly. It's like only if you buy the newest
But
edition.
it's available. Just to be
Um,
clear, though, it's available today on any television in the world. So you can go to your LG screen today. You just have to download the app. Only a slightly improved process next year. Any TV in
that's
the world,
awesome.
Apple TV, Samsung, LG, everything, and there's free art. We give away one collection for free, and then above that you can purchase art inside of the app for just a couple bucks a piece.
And frankly, people need to support these artists. There's got to be I think, it's not only is this great for giving people access to this kind of art, but the reality is, how are we going to grow this art form if we can't support the artists that are there? So I want to go back into this art form in a second, but I've got one more question for you in this. How does a guy go from being, the boat setter guy to all of a sudden being, really deep in the digital art world? Was it just the business opportunity you saw, or did you love the space, or did you love? I know you love the space now. Did you love the space back then? I'd love to understand the history of the company.
I wish it were that complicated, Freddie. To be very honest, I have this philosophy, which is that if it doesn't exist, build it. And I typically build things that benefit me, right? So I went to go buy a boat, and I was like, man, owning a boat, like it's just
What a
such a
pain.
bad idea. It's just such a bad idea. And the other thing is, I've owned boats in the past, and when you own a boat, there's this thing called 2-foot-itis, which is like your boat's never the right boat for you. Like you always wanted it a little bit too big, you wanted a different boat, you wanted to go fishing, you wanted to go. So you never have the right boat. So I said, rather than buying one boat, what if we created a platform that you could have any boat in the world immediately on demand? So pure self need, right? Purely out of self need. Similarly, in the digital art space, I fell in love with the art form because, as you and I have been collectively in the technology space for most of our careers, way or the other, when I saw digital art, it was a representation that were in my everyday life. Things like Adobe Suite products, right? Graphics design things, software code, algorithms, and to see artists put these tools to work in a way in which it spoke to me at the level that it did. For me, I just had to have more of it, and the story as it goes and cut me off. But I went to go buy my first work of art, and they told me it was a certain amount of money, and I said, hey, that's a lot of money. And I said, but like, what do I do when I'm not when I want to have that one on my screen anymore? And they looked at me like I was a little bit nuts. And I said, no, I should be able to like click a button and just have more art available to me. And of course, the traditional art industry couldn't figure this out on any level. And so it took, I wish they had figured it out. I probably would have still been in the boat business, to be honest, but I decided to, bring Black Dove in the way.
Sometimes this show we talk about our kind of ship moments. I know that digital art is certainly having a real moment right now. But over the last 6 years, it's been about 6 years you've been doing this. Did you ever have a moment where you really felt you were too early, or a little bit of having a little bit of an oh shit moment, if you will?
I mean, most of the time, to be honest, most of the time.
Fair enough. You're like, until when? So when did you feel like the sea change started happening? As the NFT thing started to emerge, or was it something else that triggered it?
Yeah, the NFT movement really was the inflection point for the industry. The opportunity, not unsurprisingly, for people to make money trading digital art. I
Mm.
can't say it's warming my heart up very much that that's the reason why the industry is catching fire. But the truth is, as you mentioned, I don't really care why the attention is being shown on this. Right now that there's
It's certainly not bad publicity, you know. I mean, people. I think what it did was it made the conversation about there was a now meaningful conversation about digital art and people debating whether this is valuable. But maybe the conversation started around that, but if nothing else, they had them talking about digital art, right? And I think a lot of people never said, "Hey, why is this digital art piece worth $40,000?" And so people going, man, that is in fairness pretty damn cool. Maybe where do I get more of that? So very, really, very, really great luck.
that's where the token. Yeah, I
Having
mean
fun.
that's really where this token concept
Yeah.
really created an unbelievably small, right? You and I talk about, historically when we get together and talk about broader business concepts, big markets get unlocked for, unpredicted reasons, right? And in this case, it was simply the humanistic requirement of ownership. That was it. We're like collector beings. Like we like to own stuff, right? And so the concept of seeing the art was good, but we wanted to be able to own it and to hold it and say, "I own this." It's fascinating to me. I am not an ownership person, actually. I like
Yeah.
more experiences, but the world has spoken.
Yeah, I never really thought about that before. That the boat setter thing really was about co-ownership, and it doesn't really matter what the object of desire was. But so much you're thinking from that. I'm sure there were some crazy learnings that you were able to reapply over into this. Um, Very, very cool. So let's jump to Art Basel. Again, how many days did you go out and interact with people? What did you see? What did you learn? I'd love to hear what your read was from this year.
Yeah, it was fascinating because I think more than anything else, the in real life experience, as we would say, of experiencing the art form helped answer questions around this phenomena of NFTs. Right? People would say, "Is that an NFT?" And we'd say, "That's an NFT." And our installations, we made sure to bring these beautiful, beautiful installations. 86-inch display hung in portrait orientation with big ornate frames. It's really important to hide the technology. Typically, not always, but we typically try to hide the technology, excuse me, and allow the art to be seen. So we do all these things. I love this book, Persuasion, a book I read not too long ago, which I love, was the concept of making sure you warm your audience up. And by putting a beautiful frame and sticking it into an art gallery, clients were expecting to see art. And the response was overwhelming how excited people are. Overwhelming.
So funny about that. I love that the concept, just when you feed them, hey, there's a frame. The frame has trained us to go. Amazing frame means amazing insides, and you just it's like a mental cue that's built into us. Frankly, from very really young age. I've actually been debating that, getting a hold of these myself. Are people making it any easier to get these? Like, is a kind of obscure question, but like, if I wanted to put a frame around a smart TV, is anyone making it easier to get that? There's maybe a whole nother business right there. Just saying.
Yeah, it's surprisingly ineffective and it's surprisingly expensive right now to do it. You would think it would be like an iPhone case,
Yeah, yeah,
but
exactly.
it's not yet, which is very, very interesting. But I would suspect it will be in the next couple of years.
Yeah, maybe you need a framing partner. So
Yeah,
very
yeah,
cool.
it's an old world business. I'm hoping somebody solves it.
Yeah. What's the best thing you saw last week at Art Basel? Not to put you on the spot.
Best thing I saw last week at Art Basel. Well, far and away, the most important experience for us last week is that we brought in a number of our artists to participate in the experiences that we offered. We supported approximately 11 events and activations over the week, and allowing the artists to be able to touch and communicate. I think it was really, really important because so often the artists, because of COVID, especially, and this is when the boom has happened, have not felt the heartwarming appreciation of
Huh.
other people seeing their work. And, you could see their entire demeanor change from being perhaps even a little closed and protective to just opening up and sharing with people, like, this is why I create.
So,
It was
some
amazing.
people say they make art for themselves, but I think most artists make the art for other people. And if they haven't got that feedback loop, it can hurt their art, I believe. And so I love that this sentiment you've got that they're out there reconnecting and you got to witness some of that. That's awesome.
It's fascinating. I'll speak to a few different artists. I'll speak to a few different artists that we're speaking to. We're representing right now. Artist name Kenny Wayne Alexander. I didn't do such a good job of queuing that up for you right now. Let me see. I'll get that in just a second. An artist named Mark Malta, and the best way to understand the art form, honestly, is, and not to make this a sales pitch, but I want people to experience the art, right? So, definitely, Freddie, encourage people to just download the app on the TV. Like, it's amazing that you get to experience these works. Freddie is out of not Freddie. Kenny Wayne Alexander is out of Memphis. He does these digital collages, and it was the first time he and I spent time together. We spent a lot of time together. The layers of intellectualism that he has built into these works completely not changed, but evolved my understanding of where his practice is moving, and the level of positivity that he brings is, my goodness, just you can't help but hug the guy every time you see him.
We're going to take a look at some more digital art in a second. I'd like to take a question from the audience. And for those of you that are listening or watching live, if you've got a great comment or question that you want to ask us, go ahead and ask it in the chat, and we'll do our best to chat about it here on the show. So one of the audience members has asked a question, said, what factors determine the value of NFT art? Minting elements like colors, components, or artist brand popularity? Any opinion on that, Mark?
Well, less of an opinion, much just experience that plays into how we develop and select our artists. Uh, it has absolutely nothing to do with the concept of minting elements. And I understand where Masa's comment is coming from, because there's a movement that's called generative art, where we've seen a huge amount of popularity in projects starting off with the crypto punks and bored apes, and then a sequence of follow-on projects beyond that. Uh, those are those are a slightly different concept than we promote. We're not against it. We're just not involved in that in particular. We're selling a minor amount of. We like to say we're selling 2 minutes of happiness, right? We're hoping to connect you with another human being in a way that offers a 2 minute break from your day, a small amount of insight, an experience that moves you through your day more seamlessly. The technical components that go towards value are complexity, messaging, and market. At the end of the day, the market drives demand for sure. And typically, that market is driven by quality of content. Sometimes the content is not necessarily the most technically sophisticated, but sometimes it is. That work I showed you, which is Rafiq Anadol, what makes his work, we're selling another work for $300,000 right now. What makes that work more sophisticated, the most important work to own right now is that he is by far the most sophisticated algorithmic artist in the world. By far. Over time, he will be understood by the masses, and it will become a he is the masterpiece of the medium. But
Great.
yeah,
I know we've got another video that you suggested I queue up. Is any of his work in there? If not, can you talk about some of the work in that second video that I'll queue up?
yeah, I tossed that second video just to make sure that everybody understood that while the aspirational product is the large one, this is an every person object. You can buy, it's very inexpensive, reasonably speaking. You spend, it's a couple $1,000 up to a little bit more, but this is how people are adapting and integrating digital art into their home these days. You're hanging a screen. It's not a television, it's a commercial display that's manufactured by some of the major manufacturers. It is designed to play art. Every time you turn it on, it automatically boots into art. It's got a local hard drive on it so that the art is storing locally. And then the screen, the canvas, as we call it, is available to be managed by remote control from your phone. You build playlists, you collect art, and it just is constantly rotating all the time with new works. And of course, over time, that will be adaptive, and you can play the works you love the most when you're entertaining to showcase, or select from some of our curators who are building these amazing collections right now.
That is beyond cool. So, out of interest, so the 98, I assume, is the mothership. What's the kind of range on these things from the smallest one to the largest one, approximately?
Yeah, so it starts off at around $2,000. I think that's for a 55-inch, which is honestly, it's like a great size. In
Yeah,
most
yeah,
homes, a 55-inch
definitely.
screen, you hang it in portrait. It's like four. It's like over 4 feet tall. It's a nice
Yeah,
size screen.
yeah, big time.
Uh, the
I mean, a
98,
98's like that's like monster's big taller than a man, isn't it?
7 foot tall.
Yeah, exactly.
7 foot
So
tall.
that's
It's
crazy.
bigger. It's bigger than we are. It's the size of an
Yeah,
NBA
yeah, a
center. It's
monster.
massive scale. If you've got like 12-foot ceilings, something like that, but still by comparison, this is the funny thing, right? If you were to go and get a work of art from a gallery that's 7 foot and that large, so this screen is $15,000.
Yeah,
Absolutely not. That's a good amount of money. It is a good amount of money. But if you're collecting art, like it's not even
it'll be
close to being.
next level. I mean, yeah, if you especially if you spent
Yeah.
some money on some digital art, what better way? So probably digital art's the only art form in the world that you can actually make it bigger and resize it on the demand. So if you can get a that kind of experience, imagine what a canvas from a high end artist could be for something that size. So really cool.
No, this is the point. This is the point. Actually, to that point, Freddie, I would argue today, and I have the numbers to prove it, that this is the most discounted form of art in the market right now because it's still so early on. I mean, we sold works for 30,000 3 years ago, and those are now selling for 300,000 now.
Insane. Again, these things can hit some pretty massive scale. I know you've even talked about showing how these could be like wall size and so on, doing generative art. Is this kind of stuff? These all artists we can find on Black Dove?
Every single one of them. Every single one. Yeah. We focus our energies on putting together the absolute best installations in the market. and we did that for large scale commercial, large, very premium luxury residential clients. But the platform, because it's digital, allows just anybody to get it. Again, it's as I said, it's sort of in the beginning. What I think is amazing about this medium is that anybody in the world can get original artwork on demand. The impact is honestly, the impact is amazing. The artists are creating this work here that you're showing there, Freddie. The last one that you did,
Back up.
if you're able to
Hey,
put it
go
back
ahead.
up. So, well, there's a couple of different sequences. This is an installation that we just finished up at McDermott Will Emery in New York City. By the way, that's like 40 feet long. It's this massive installation up in New York City. This artist is Stan Adart. His work is for meditation. This is a Tech 3. He just has these three-dimensional landscapes that are so peaceful. They're just, for me, he's a sculpturist working within the digital realm. We've got, let's see here, who's coming up next? Yeah, because I think he's based out of Portland. Amazing work. This is Maggie. Her
How would you do
works.
these large scale ones? Is this like you do like a projector or something?
There's a new technology that came out a few years ago that is the absolute fastest growing tech. It's called LED, not OLED, LED. It's
Yeah.
just, LED lights, and they're jammed really, really close together. And based on the ability for our eyes to see them, you have close enough pixel densities that it looks like a 4K TV. It's just, farther away. Artist Jazer Giles. Jazer is an amazing audio. The terminology is he's a musician. He's an amazing
Yeah.
musician. He teaches music up in Connecticut, and he creates works that go along with this music. This is Marco Fontan. This work is, oh my God! We put this up every once in a while, and people don't even know that it's a screen. They ask us like, "Oh, is that a new material that you're showing?"
Wow.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Fascinating. We actually sold this to an Asian family who wanted to have gold, from a prosperity concept.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, cool.
yeah, Cesar, who's working, and he builds these incredibly, incredibly peaceful, fluid movements. For the larger walls, we tend to go with very slow moving works because it's a lot for the eye to handle. These are moving image nature works from an artist whose name is Frank Lefebvre, and he is just a master. He spent 5 years out in the field going and taking video of nature scenes that nobody, like Ansel Adams type stuff. This is the artist Megan Chen. Megan also, I mean, she blows me away. Megan is a concert violinist. She's based out of Toronto, and her works are generative. So those butterflies react to when she's playing violin.
That's amazing. So I want to ask you some Mark. I mean, this work is so cool, and I'm triply excited now to get a hold of these new TVs so I can start playing these in the house. My question is, going back to the entrepreneurial side of this for a second. You've been on a really really fascinating journey with Black Dove. Over the last 6 years, I've obviously been chatting with you along this whole journey, just as a fellow entrepreneur and a friend. Um, but I'd love to, and I know it's been a bit of a wild ride for you. If you had to say, to future digital art entrepreneurs, maybe not the artists, but the people that are trying to build things in this ecosystem, if you had to give those people one bit of advice if they were going to start today, or one or two bits of advice, like, is there anything that kind of pops to mind that would be some sage-like wisdom you could pass on?
I am not. I have never historically been a natural salesperson.
Mm,
I have learned that over the last few years.
yeah,
I would
that you,
say
that you
that
that you have to be good at it. You mean?
you have to be. You have
Mm.
to put yourself in those uncomfortable situations in order to get over whatever I would call myself historically an introvert. And so the concept of being out and absorbing the energy and outwardly conveying. So I would tell you that I am thankful that I met the artists in person, because when I met the artists, that was as much as any other reason where I said, man, like I have to do this for them, right? Like this art needs to be seen. So I am now on a mission to tell their stories. And that is, I think, the most important piece for anybody who is getting involved is, and Freddie, you've always been there, and I've always come to you for the sage wisdom that you can provide, because that narrative, that story narrative that you help create is, that really is what helped me get out of, my own personal development game or product development cycle, getting out there, right, and telling the story. And so I'm very appreciative of everything that you've always helped me with.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I didn't know if it was sage wisdom, but it was definitely some form of wisdom. But that's it's great. And I think that is a great lesson there to other entrepreneurs out there that you can have a great product and you can go out there and be super passionate about these things, but people, especially if you've got a startup, that I mean, people want to feel that passion from you, and that's part of like what they talk about infectious enthusiasm. But I think being able to go out there and sell your vision and let other people see your feelings and understand what you're trying to do, like I've seen great companies with great ideas fail because someone couldn't go out there and express themselves. So I think it's really cool that you've made that transition. I say the following with a obviously a big smile on my face, but the art world is kind of notorious for having some of the best eccentrics in the world. So would you, as an introvert, did you find it's easier to go kind of make shift gears in that world, or is it even harder because there's so many special personalities in the art world?
I'm sure you know that all of us, even us introverts, have that special spark inside of us. It's a communication, right? I find the art world to be one of the freest places to operate without judgment,
Well said.
because the rewards of individuality are real. People are not looking on any level for mediocrity. They are looking to push the edge of what's possible. And that is what defines this space. And frankly, I think that's one of the reasons why it's been such a good fit for me, because I also feel the same way. I've always been trying to push myself and those around me into whatever it is that's next. Let's not get stuck in the status quo. Let's live our life to the fullest. Let's surround ourselves with amazing people. Let's surround ourselves with amazing art. Let's live that life. I want everyone to be able to wake up in the morning, have that amazing new work of art on their screen, get excited, wake up, spread that enthusiasm to the next person down the line that they meet, and fly effect, one step at a time. Just if we touch a billion people around the world having this few minutes of amazing art, I'll feel good.
It's awesome. For some people need a view in their life, or they need some music to calm them down. But art can have just as impact as much of an impact. And I think one of the coolest things about digital art and actually the Black Dove service in general is this idea that I think you described it earlier as these 2-minute doses of happiness, which I thought was really cool. So it's fresh stimuli for you all the time as you're trying to find something to maybe whether it's cheer you up, inspire you, make you feel more creative. I mean, or make you want to fall in love, whatever it may be. Art like great music or other great forms of communication can have that effect. Um, so let's change gears a little bit, and I'd love to talk a little bit about the Miami tech scene. So you've been in the Miami space for a while now, a very long while, and there's been so much buzz about the Miami tech scene emerging, the Miami investor scene. The last year in particular, mainly due to cultural shifts due to the way we're all changing, working. What's your read on it? What are you seeing down there this year, but from the investment standpoint, investors, the tech community? Like, what's your read on what's happening?
Yeah, I mean, when we were involved, I know you were around with me during the Incubate Miami days, right? We had a simple thesis during during those early days of the tech scene, which was that I guess not all that not all that different from the NFT market, which is if we could show people that they could make money investing in tech companies, then more people would come to the table, right? And we could take some money from the real estate investment, allocation and put it into tech. Tech is proven; they just didn't have access. So that was 2008, 2009. Interestingly, I had originally started by going out to Boulder and talking to Dave Cohen and Brad Feld out of Techstars. And, unwaveringly, Brad Feld said to me, 13 years, Mark, 13 years. I was like, come on, Brad. Like, that's a long time, man. Like, I don't have time. I don't have 13 years to wait. He goes, over and over again, man, 13 years. And lo and behold, 13 years on the dot. Market exploded. It's just a very interesting thing. Look, and there definitely are inflection
I
points,
wonder how
right?
he called it so accurately. I can't figure out what I'm doing tomorrow. I don't know how this guy's calling it out 13 years.
Brad's amazing. Brad's amazing. When you meet,
Yeah, I
Brad's
know
one of those
Brad's well for
guys.
the record, but hats off to him if he watches this later. That's crazy.
Brad's
Man,
got Brad has a crystal ball. The guy's amazing.
yeah, yeah,
It's just incredibly, incredibly insightful. But it's amazing down here right now. The market is getting nurtured. I think the biggest, I don't think local tech entrepreneurs are the biggest that are winning, to be honest, are the biggest winners here. I think the
yeah.
city is the biggest winner
Hmm.
because there's just a lot of money coming into town, and
Hmm.
that is creating an economy down here.
Everything, right? Restaurants, housing. I mean, it's good across the board.
Yeah,
Um,
so it's a net positive all around, all around town. And then our ability to meet with potential investors is definitely, well, it sort of is real during COVID. Even if they're around town, we're still doing remote meetings. But
mhm.
I've met some incredible people. I think it's interesting to meet some of the superstars of the tech universe. I was never one to sort of chase anything, so I didn't spend a lot of time in the valley. But I know who some of these people are, right? It's cool that Founders Fund is here in Miami. Everybody associated with that group is amazing, right? We recently did an amazing installation at the SoftBank offices. I have been blown away by the level of sophistication and professionalism that team has. There's professional early stage capital in this market now, which simply was not the case. It's not free money. Make no mistake, right? It's not free money. It is just incredibly smart capital, and they're experienced enough to know that a successful tech company has an opportunity to create big value. And so there is risk capital now available. And, you know, connecting with these individuals, getting the insights and the experience is incredibly helpful for all of us.
One of the things that we've also seen obviously happening in South Florida is where blockchain has obviously been popular in many cities across the U.S. There does seem to be a particularly strong, blockchain crypto community in South Florida right now. With the rise of NFTs and that becoming such a big conversation. Is Miami uniquely positioned to kind of sit at the forefront of the digital art scene right now? And if so or not, I'd love to know what other cities you think are kind of the epicenters for this movement right now.
My take on that is that Miami is probably the freest city in the country. Free thinkers are attracted here. We are not big on rules down here. You can be whoever you want to be, good or bad. And new ideas can prosper because you have people from around the world. I often refer to Miami as the Istanbul of the modern era. It's a place where people from all over the globe are seeking out other people to share ideas, and then we'll bring those ideas globally. And so, definitely, it's something that can prosper.
I love that. Um, I'm gonna, this has been a great show, by the way. It's super interesting to dig into this space with you. I consider you one of the kind of authorities in of this kind of new wave of distributing specifically digital art. Um, I think and I'd like to wrap up the show by just saying. If there's anything that you can share as a, I call them "oh ship" stories. I don't want to put you on the spot here too much, but has there ever been an instance that you can talk about on the air where something went a little awry for you over the last 6 years or so in the digital art space or Black Dove? I mean, and that you're like, that was it, kind of went off the rails there, but I learned a lot from that experience, or it shaped the business in some way. I love hearing about and you've had some great successes, but I always intrigued by people's near misses. I'm not sure if there's anything you can share there.
I think, one of the great experiences that I had was, and that I won't do again, is you have to be really careful as an early stage company getting allured to working with some big company, right? You think, oh, I'm going to get a breakaway. I'm going to pair up with some big brand. And I have been warned about it in the past. Be careful. You're four people and they're going to absorb you and destroy you. And that happened, even in spite of all the warnings. I gave a good pitch to Samsung. It
Yeah.
was so good that they said, man, this is amazing. Let's go do this. And I completely screwed the pooch on this one. I mean, it was a disaster because we built this amazing screen, but we didn't have the team in place to market the screen. And that project fell so fast without marketing support that we had just like wasted 6 months of our life in going out on that edge. So I definitely would not do it exactly the same way at that time. Um, the good news about that experience, and it's always good to have sort of a give and take, is that project resulted in what's now the fastest growing product in Samsung's history, Samsung Frame, and that product is absolutely part of the reason that digital art is prospering right now, because there's now a screen from a major manufacturer that looks cool on the wall.
Yeah, what's
Although
the old, so what's the expression, like rising tides, rise all boats or something to that effect? That's kind of that kind of thinking, is that their success basically has a direct impact on the overall success of the entire space.
this is the key. This is the key, and frankly, it's a great product. The one you actually from LG, it's the better product. Shh. But the frame is a pretty great product. Great product. It's both the two best manufacturers in the world of displays, and we're lucky to have opportunities to work with both of them. And it's a magical moment. I mean, honestly, right? You're like the experience that I can't wait to hear back from you after you've got art. We'll do some curation for you. Make sure you've got what you're looking for. Um, it's definitely something that is not even like a little bit better. It's not even 10 times better. It is literally transformational in our lives. You will see that the concept of new art in your life is something you didn't expect. It's the equivalent of being able to eat at different restaurants. Like, of course, we take that for granted, right? If I served you one form of food every night, you'd be like, "Come on, enough already."
Yeah, well said. One last final question for you before I kind of sign out for us today. If people want to learn more about you or learn about Black Dove, what should they be looking for? Any links or anything like that you'd like us to share?
I personally communicate out of our Twitter account, which I'm warming up to. That introvert is starting to come out. I'm warming up. Twitterverse is it's like a world on itself. But that's where I speak. So I would definitely have, if you're interested in what I'm saying, then we're at Blackdove Art on both Twitter and Instagram. Those are our two primary mediums. On Instagram, we share the new artwork that's coming out for sale on the platform,
Very cool.
new releases, new events, and on Twitter is usually when I am, I don't know, picking fights. Isn't that what you're supposed to do on Twitter?
Nice. Great. We know where to tune in then. That's awesome. Well, Mark, again, thanks for your time and today. I know I'm sure you're exhausted after doing a bit of Art Basel last week, but I just want to thank everyone that tuned in. Thank you for a very engaged audience. So we're very appreciative for all the comments and questions we see coming in, whether you're watching us on Facebook or on YouTube or on LinkedIn, any one of the platforms that we now stream on, or you're listening to us via the audio show that we're now streaming on every major podcast platform under the O Ship Show. So thanks again for tuning in. The best thing you can do to support the show every single week is give us a like, share us on your social feed, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. All of these things help us to keep this show every single week and continue to bring on great guests. And if you want to keep it simple, you can always go to oshipshow.com and see all the different places you can link to us. With that, I thank you for your time. Mark, thanks again for showing up and joining us today. And congrats again on all your success. Really, really, really great stuff. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Captain.
Take care. Bye. No, good nautical reference. Perfect way to end our ship. Bye, everyone.